everyone, Manny back here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL, and very soon, we're going to be covering NBA as well. Got a brand new video for you guys today. I'm going to discuss with you some of my sneaky picks or my sneaky plays for this week, kind of like the sleepers that most people call them. Here, I'm going to try to give you one individual sneaky play per position other than defense. But before I get started and I give you that kind of information, man, please, I appreciate you guys drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to be able to get NFL content on a weekly basis, pretty much every day I'm going to be covering every position, as well as we have a live show on Saturday nights, which will be tomorrow night, 7 p.m. At 7 o'clock here at DFS Zone on YouTube, where I cover game stacks, team stacks, value plays, anything that has developed through injuries. We'll go over the implied totals. We'll discuss anything and everything pertaining to the Sunday main slate right here live, 7 o'clock tomorrow. So make sure you do become a subscriber. Subscribe down below if you haven't done so already. Make sure you put on your post notifications and put yourself in position so that you'll be able to get this information to you on a regular basis. And then it carries on also into the NBA. All right, with that all out of the way, sneaky plays, man, that I got a couple of plays here that I believe some of you are probably not going to be on. Nobody's really been discussing them, but I really am looking forward to the actual games itself. And I'm going to talk to you guys about at quarterback. A really sneaky play at quarterback this week would be, surprisingly, Mr. Ryan Tannehill. Yes, I am speaking of the Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill here, 6,800, I think could be a possible good play here. Someone that obviously is not going to be highly owned at all in a matchup. Now, just hear me out for a moment. Ryan Tannehill, we got to look at everything that's going on here right now, right? We're looking at New England is 1-2 going into this fourth game. And if they go to 1-3 after the first quarter of the season, that's going to be pretty disappointing in New England. I would love it because I'm a Jet fan. I do not like the Patriots. I'm sure a number of you do not like the Patriots, and I'm sure no disrespect to the Patriot fans. But this team is looking terrible right now. And this is the perfect opportunity for a team like Miami, who's 3-0, has some momentum, has built some confidence, has built some unity and some chemistry among the players and coaching staff. And I'm sure they've been working their tails off these last couple of days to prep themselves. They know they're in a prime position here to be in first place and stay in first place and be 4-0 and have a 3-game lead on the mighty Patriots. And I would love it. I mean, I just am tired of seeing the Patriots on top, especially in the East Division. I am a Jet fan. I would love the Jets to be 3-0, but we're not. But definitely got to give credit where credit is due. The Dolphins are 3-0. I would love for them to stay in first place and be 4-0. So it brings me to Ryan Tannehill. Why Ryan Tannehill? Well, a couple of things really come to mind with Tannehill. I mean, first things first, he is 54 of 74. He doesn't throw a whole lot of balls. Okay, we know that. As you can see, 23, 23, 28. That's pretty much like 24, 25 on average passing attempts. But you got to remember, this team is more of a time possession team. They kind of like slowing down the pace. They're not one of these fast, get to the huddle, call the play, and get out there. They're not that type of a team, that type of offense. They're the offense that revolves around the running game. They like to at least establish the run and then play off at the pass. And the thing about Ryan Tannehill, he doesn't have the big arm. He doesn't have the big arm. He's not going to throw big bombs. He is a little bit of a scrambler. He does buy in time, so he extends the play, fairly good. And at the same time, he's a short pattern passer. He's in that range of 10, 15, 20 yards and let the receivers get busy with their feet and make super duper plays out there. So that's the kind of player Ryan Tannehill is as a quarterback. So that's why you see this 23, 23, and 28 passing attempts. He doesn't have to throw a whole lot, okay? And he's still been effective. 2 touchdowns in 3 games. So he's averaging 2 touchdowns a game. You at least can figure he's going to get 2. Now, granted, look at the 3 teams he played against: Oakland, New Jets, and Tennessee. All three of those teams statistically are better at defense in stopping the run and on the pass protection, better than New England. Now, granted, New England is at home. They are tough at home. They're going to have their home crowd. They're super pumped too. They don't want to go to 1-3. They know that this is a big game for them. but they don't have no weapons. So getting back to Tannehill. 229 yards, 7 TDs, averaging 19.6 FanDuel points here. Now that 19.6 is right now the 5th best fantasy point total for quarterback this year. Actually, is not my fault. What I wanted to say is 73% completion percentage he has here thus far this year, and that's the 5th best in the NFL among all the starting quarterbacks. The 5th best. He is pretty consistent. He is accurate. He's been really good as far as making sure that his efficiency with his passing has been fantastic. He's put up 229 yards, 7 TDs, and like I said, 19.6 FanDuel points, 20 DK points. In the red zone, he's been fairly good too. 4 out of 7 passes. 4 of 7, 58 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, again, like I said, he's a short pattern guy. His passing, 229 yards. He's only averaging actually I have here 9.3 yards per catch. So that comes to show you that short passing game for Tannehill is what they normally do. Okay, and when we're thinking about New England, now granted, let's get to New England. Why Tannehill should do well? Well, New England is really terrible. New England is 21st in defending the pass. They're 31st in defending the rush, and they're 26th overall in the NFL right now after 3 games as far as total defense. And they have already played the Titans, the Raiders, and the Jets, and won all 3 of those games. That's one of my major points here. Not only that, also think about New England, right? New England has faced Watson, Bortles, and Stafford. And just Stafford and Bortles in the last 2 games have put over 640 yards of passing, thrown 6 touchdowns with Bortles throwing 4. And they're averaging between those 2 games 319 yards. I'm not going to count Watson's game because Watson had a dreadful game. It wasn't so much what New England did. It was just a matter of, Deshaun Watson had a horrific game. But Bortles and Stafford did play well enough. And Stafford last week, his team had a balanced attack. He didn't have to throw for over 300 yards. He only threw for 262 yards because their running game was very effective against New England too, which I'll touch on my next guy, which is also another Miami player, which I think is another sneaky play. So Ryan Tannehill here. Again, get back to New England. In the red zone, New England has been giving up 4 opportunities per game to their opponents, but they have been shutting them down. So we got to give them a little credit there. The opponent's only been scoring 1 touchdown and 1 field goal in those possessions in the red zone. Miami, in turn, also struggling in the red zone as far as an offense. They get in there 3 times a game and only converting 1 touchdown and 1 field goal. So they're missing out on some points there, and obviously, for us, some fantasy points. So, I think just simply, the bottom line is you got a kid who's probably going to be hungry. You got a team that's looking to go 4-0. They should be prepared. Ryan Tannehill going up against this very, very porous New England passing attack, as far as defending the pass, and their running game is going to be hard, is going to be tough as well, for New England to cover here. I really like Miami here. I really think Ryan Tannehill can have, and look at the bright side. He's not going to give you enormously big fantasy points, but he's consistent. 73%, like I said, a completion percentage, and he's at least throwing 2 touchdowns a game. If he can give me 2 touchdowns and throw about 25, hey, let's put it this way. He's in a position that if at least New England keeps this game close, then Tannehill will open up the doors and he might have to throw more than 25 passes. And as well as he's been completing his passes, that's an opportunity for him to put up even more fantasy points. But as far as the fantasy points, 19.6, like I said before, that 19.6 puts him in the top 10 in the NFL as far as starting quarterbacks, as far as fantasy points. He is actually doing better. Let's put it this way. He's actually 8th, right on the nose, and he has topped Brady 15.7, Wilson 17.9, Luck 15.9, Stafford is 18.4, and Bortles 18.9. All those starting quarterbacks, those are all FanDuel fantasy points thus far this year, and he is averaging 19.6. I think Ryan Tannehill is a fine, sneaky play here, going up against a very poor New England team. And if New England falls this game, I could see a whole lot of things going wrong with New England going into the second quarter of this season. But right now in the first quarter, they need to get a win on Sunday. If they don't win, I still think Miami has an excellent shot here to go 4-0 and put New England pretty much with about two or three nails in their coffin as far as this year is concerned, because it's going to be an uphill battle for them to come and rebound back from 1-3. But I would love to see that, so I'm looking forward to it. The next guy I'm going to touch, the next sneaky play that I like here at running back is in the same game. I am picking on New England, and I am all over Kenyon Drake. He has not had a breakout game. He hasn't had a great game at all thus far this year. But why Kenyon Drake? 29. He has had 29 carries, 104 yards, and just 1 touchdown. He has also had 12 targets receiving the ball, and he has had nine catches for 42 yards. Numbers don't look good. Again, this is all about matchup. I think New England is going to have a tough go. Last week, they gave up 159 yards to Detroit's backfield tandem of Mr. KJ, Kerryon Johnson, and Mr. Blunt. And the week before that, and then in the first week of the season against the Texans, they gave up 98 yards to Lamar Miller. So, I mean, Mr. Drake has faced 3 pretty good run defending teams here, and he hasn't been able to get going. But we got to give him a little credit. He has faced 2 teams in the Jets and Tennessee, especially the Jets. The Jets are 7th best against the run, and Tennessee's up there in the top 15. We're talking about 2 pretty decent run-stopping teams here, and he wasn't able to really get going. But he's capable of breaking one. He has enough speed on the outside. He's pretty decent between the tackles if he gets those holes. So I think with New England having all the holes you can get, I mean, they're 31st in defending the rush. There shouldn't be no reason why Kenyon Drake cannot get more than 80, 90 yards in this game. I think that he will. All right. Now, I know, granted, we know Frank Gore is a part of this team and he gets a couple of touches, but he's not going to get the same amount of touches as Kenyon Drake. And as long as Kenyon Drake is able to get himself established in the offense early, and Miami's going to do that, because Miami definitely is a team that looks to run the ball first. They're more run-oriented, and they love pacing the game, making the game stretch out, eat up most of that time of possession, and just keep moving the chains. So I love Kenyon Drake here, man. The numbers look ugly, but nonetheless, he did face a couple of decent teams here. Now, another thing also, he gets about 60% or better of the snaps. He's involved in those, and he gets about 36% of the touches. So he does get offensive opportunities, and I see him getting a number of them here. In the red zone, he has had 5 rushes for 13 yards and 1 touchdown, and inside the 10, he's had 2 rushes for 9 yards and 1 touchdown. Obviously, when he's gotten inside the 10, he has been very efficient as well. And again, like I said, New England coming in 31st in the league in rushing. They're giving up in rushing defense. They're pretty much dead last, second to last in the league, 143.3 yards per game given up. They're only giving up 1 touchdown, but they've given up a lot of yardage. In the red zone, like I mentioned before, they are decent there. Opponents are getting in there 4 times per game, and they're not really converting a whole lot. Only 1 TD and 1 field goal, so New England you got to give them a little respect there for the time being against the opponents they have had. We'll see what Kenyon Drake can do. But again, I really love the situation here. Like I said, if Kenyon Drake can have if Kenyon Drake is ever going to have a good game, this is going to be the game that he breaks out in. Again, like I said before, New England gave up 98 yards to Lamar Miller, and they gave up 159 yards last week to Mr. KJ and Mr. Blunt. In week 2, they didn't have to deal with Leonard Fournette because he was injured. They only had to deal with Mr. Yeldon. And Yeldon, in that particular game with Jacksonville, just remember, Jacksonville, they realized they didn't have Leonard Fournette. So obviously their game plan was to be more pass-oriented. And they were so effective with that they stuck with that. And that's the reasons why T.Y. Yeldon only got 10 rushes for 58 yards, which is not too bad. It's about maybe 4 yards a rush. But nonetheless, I really think sneaky play here, man. Kenyon Drake, do not sleep on him. There's an opportunity for him to do well here as well. We go to the wide receivers. I'm not worried about the price. And like I said, I didn't mention the pricing for Kenyon Drake. $6,300 on FanDuel, $5,200 on DK. In both platforms, I think he's still a very good play. We're going to go over to the receivers, and obviously, you need some correlation here. I mentioned Ryan Tannehill as a sneaky play, and Drake. Why not throw one of their receivers? Now, I think 2 receivers for Miami will definitely pan out well here. Kenny Stills is definitely in play as one of those sneaky plays for me. And I also believe Albert Wilson because of his playmaking ability. I think he's someone you can consider. Stills 6,400 here on FanDuel. He's 5,800 on DK. He has 13 targets thus far this year, 9 receptions, 184 yards. And that's pretty darn good. 184 yards on just 9 catches. I mean, that's pretty explosive. He has 3 touchdowns. And when you think about the 3 touchdowns, I mean, you're talking about, oh, that's a touchdown for every, I mean, he has 9 receptions. That means he's got a touchdown in every 3 catches. So he's getting a touchdown per 3 completions. That's pretty crazy average right now. So, I mean, obviously it's not going to stay in that way the entire season, but right now that looks pretty darn good. And then going up against a team that really is not that good in the pass defense, which I already mentioned, 21st in the league. And also, New England with receivers, coughing up 45 receptions thus far this year. The New England Patriots, 555 yards. They have coughed up 6 touchdowns already, and they have had a weakness. I didn't mention it before, but I mention it now as far as the passing with, when I mentioned Ryan Tannehill. But here with Kenny Stills and Albert Wilson, 45.7 DK points, okay, and 36.9 DraftKings FanDuel points per game to receivers this year. That is the 7th most in the NFL. All right, so keep that in mind. In the red zone, like I mentioned, 4 opportunities. Miami has had 3 opportunities per game, only scoring 1 touchdown and 1 field goal. They need to pick it up. They need to make some big plays here, and Kenny Stills is capable of doing that. And I believe Albert Wilson, who is 5,200, is even more of a sleeper here. Albert Wilson at 5K here on FanDuel, and he's 3,700. 3,700, is it? Let me just double check. 3,700 on DK. Yeah, right here, 3,700 on DK. You know, you gotta give him what you gotta take a stab at it. You gotta take a shot. So Albert Wilson is in play for me. He's averaging 12.6 FanDuel points, and he's gotten just minimal touches. As you can see, only 11 touches, 8 receptions, 142 yards. Another guy that gets big plays, 2 touchdowns. So he's getting a touchdown in pretty much every 4.5 catches, 4.5 receptions, because he only has 8 catches. I mean, he's getting, he's getting 1 touchdown per every 4 completions to him, every 4 receptions. That's crazy. And we know from his Kansas City days, he is capable of breaking some big plays. So, I mean, this is what draws me to this whole game. I think Albert Wilson is someone you can not pass on. New England is very poor again defensively, in the secondary, everywhere. They're just really, really bad. This team should go in there with the mindset of let's put these guys to bed and let's just get, let's take it to them. So Albert Wilson, Kenny Stills, either one of the two, I think you can play them. If you can get them both, why not? Again, this is if you're playing multiple lineups. I know I'm going to definitely have some exposure to these guys. I'm willing to take a shot. And if you saw my tight end and defense video yesterday, I did indicate that my 2 defenses that I chose were Seattle, and my other team was Miami. I think the Miami defense could be very sneaky tomorrow, on Sunday as well, and be able to put up maybe possibly an interception, maybe even a fumble recovery. Again, they only have to concern themselves with Tom Brady, who has not looked great, and, of course, Gronkowski. If you neutralize Gronkowski and use the same recipe that some of the other teams have done thus far against this New England offense, they're going to be able to win this game without no problems, because they already have faced better opposition as far as statistically thus far this year. So, again, I love the matchup, man. Just love it. All right, I'm going to give you one more guy here, one more sleeper. The last guy I'm going to discuss is a tight end, not in this game. I'm going to go to that New Orleans, New York Giant game, and I'm going to go with Mr. Red Ellison. Who is Red Ellison? Well, he's the guy that's filling in right now for Evan Ingram. And he played okay last week. He got 3 targets. He got 3 receptions, 39 yards, and did get a touchdown. And that touchdown happened to be in the red zone. It was for 16 yards. And, again, in the red zone, Giants, I mean, not too much to say about this guy. 6 for 6 thus far. As you can see here, he's been targeted 6 times, and all 6 times he has caught the ball. So him and Eli have a little bit of something going on here. I'm just looking for him to just give me value. If he can get me 11 to 15 here, I would definitely take a stab at him in one of my lineups. I think he's definitely someone to consider here, especially in a game that's going to be a shootout, especially a game that I feel the Giants are going to need, going to be playing catch-up. They're going to be trailing. So, yeah, Mr. Rhett Ellison with Eli, short little dump passes especially, I can see it happening. I can see it happening other than, of course, Mr. Barkley in the backfield. But defensively, New Orleans, man, we know they're pretty poor. 29th in pass defense, 337 yards per game. They have given up 10 touchdowns to receivers during the course of this year. That's tied for first with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Versus tight ends, they've done fairly good with tight ends, okay? 12 receptions to tight ends, only 123 yards, pretty much close to about 8.5 yards per catch. No touchdowns, which is good. DK points only 8.8 and 6.8 FanDuel points. That is very, very low. This gentleman put up 11.4 last week. So if he can at least get over the hump and get here over 10, the only thing this gentleman has to do is get in the red zone and give him an opportunity to get a touchdown. Gets one touchdown, gets a couple catches here, 2 or 3 catch completions, and he has met value for us. And if he was to get a little bit more, we will take that. But we're looking at New Orleans. A couple of things we have to also remember too. New Orleans in the red zone. Opponents are scoring at 77.7% clip. They're getting in the red zone 3 times per game and scoring 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So they're converting very, very high. So the Giants need to get in the red zone. All right, if they can get in the red zone, they can convert. They'll put themselves in a good position. The Giants are only 50% as an offense in the red zone. They've been getting the red zone at least 3 times a game and only converting a touchdown and a field goal. So they really need to get that. But at least they're getting in the red zone. There's some teams that only get in the red zone once or twice a game. The Giants at least are getting there with at least 3 opportunities. They just need to convert a little bit more. And they have an opportunity going up against a team that has had trouble with opponents in the red zone. So I can see Ellison getting a couple more catches here. Maybe not just 2 or 3. Hopefully he gets targeted 5. Let's hope 6 times. And he makes 3 or 4 or 5 catches. And one of them happened to be a touchdown. That was all we'll need here for a nice sneaky play here. As far as New Orleans has faced 3 good teams, 3 decent teams, but not really any overwhelming tight ends. Just to point out there, they play Tampa Bay, Cleveland, and Atlanta. Atlanta has Hopper, and Tampa Bay does have Bratt, but none of those guys are really big, integral aspects or parts of their offense. They love their receivers. They got very, very dynamic receivers. Mentioning here Tampa Bay and Atlanta and even Cleveland itself. That's going to change with Cleveland. I can see David Njoku getting involved in this offense now with Baker Mayfield being a quarterback, which I mentioned in my tight end video yesterday as well. But that's pretty much what I have for you guys, man. I think those are the best possible plays for you. I think Ryan Tannehill is a definitely good sneaky play. Kenyon Drake as well. I think their receivers, one of the 2 is going to have a great game. If it's not Albert Wilson and it's going to be Kenny Stills, I would not be at all, surprised if both of them have decent games. And then I think this tight end here could be a sneaky play for the tight ends, Mr. Rhett Ellison from the New York Giants in that New Orleans Giant game, which is going to be a shootout. I can see the Giants playing catch up, and I can see where Mr. Ellison may be one of those individuals that's going to get more targets because of that. All right, and that's basically it, guys, man. I hope you liked the video. Drop a like on the video. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so down below. Put on your post notifications. Tomorrow we have the live show. I would love you guys to come on down, take a look at it, ask me questions. Let's discuss the slate. We'll discuss possible good game stacks, which I usually always discuss. There's always at least 1 or 2 games you can definitely target as a game stack, and we'll look over some team stacks as well as any other injury reports and any other possible value plays that have come about, as including anybody wants to discuss these actual sleepers or sneaky plays that I have given you here today. With that, have a great Friday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.